Singh and a family man. Thank you, Inderjit.
Thank you very much. Before I start, my slides are going to be very scant. All I've got on the slides will be just the headings of my talk, because this sort of reading I've never done before. I've presented scientific work, but this is going to be, so I'll be reading quite a bit and looking out as well. Is this the arrow? Should I ask for changing the
just the
arrow?
last one, yeah.
It gives me a great pleasure to stand here today and pay homage and tribute to my father, Makhan Singh, on behalf of his family, especially my brothers Hindpal Singh Jabal and Swarajpal Singh Jabal. Shiraz has just presented the political aspects of my father, and Amarjit has thrown some light on his literary qualities. And I would like to talk about his personal family attributes, which I have compiled from my own and my family's feelings, recollections, and experiences. As he was a very private, detached, and aloof person, none of us really got to know him. From now on, I would really like to call my father as Papa Ji, which in Punjabi means dad, because this makes it very special for me to be able to utter that word. You've heard quite a bit about his life history, and I'm just going to try to keep it as brief as possible. He was born on the 27th of December 1913 in a village of Karjak, which now is in Pakistan, and spent his early years in utter poverty and very difficult circumstances. He was only 7 when his father, Sudh Singh, left for Kenya to join the railways as an artisan, leaving Papaji and his younger sister with their mother in the village in India. For the next 7 years, he studied in various Sikh missionary schools in and around his village. It was also during this period that the incident of Jallianwala Bagh took place in Amritsar, when several hundred innocent, defenseless Indians were massacred in cold blood by General Dyer. This incident, the Sikh scriptures which he listened to at the local school, at the local village gurdwaras, the gurdwaras is the Sikh temples, the Sikh history of martyrdom and self-sacrifice that he may have read or experienced in his formative years left a lasting impression on the young mind of Papaji. Papaji first came to Nairobi at the age of 14, together with his mother and sister, to join his father, who by now, as you already have heard, had a small contracting business, which was a printing press. Papaji was a very bright student and passed his London matriculation in 1931 from Government Indian High School. And those who have been living in or lived in Nairobi, it used to be called Duke of Gloucester School for boys, and now it's called Jamhuri High School. And that's where the ex-Chief Justice of Kenya, Honorable Chunilal Madan, was his classmate and later assisted him with his legal services. He joined his father's printing press to give him a helping hand, as he could not be sent overseas for further education due to financial difficulties. It was during this time that he started taking keen interest in labor trade union movement, as Shiraz has already mentioned earlier on. In 1939, just at the start of the Second World War, Papaji went to India together with my mother and my brother Hindpal. Within 6 months of his arrival, he was arrested for his political activities and imprisoned for 2.5 years in various camps in India. He was finally released in 1944 after serving a further 1-year restriction in his village. After that, he was active in the struggle for independence for India. whatever time he was there. And as you've already heard, he returned to Nairobi, Kenya in 1947, and he celebrated the Indian Independence Day on board the ship. His political activities then continued in Kenya and were at their height until he was arrested on May 15th, 1950. That makes a very special day, and I can never forget it. And was restricted for an indefinite period, as you've heard, for 11 and a half years. During his detention, we, that's my mother and my younger brother, visited him during the school holidays. And we were looked after, when we were in Nairobi, we were looked after my grandfather, late Singh, and we all really greatly indebted to what he did for us. Right, I'll throw some light on his qualities there. Papaji was very conscientious, determined, sincere, truthful, and a man of principles. He was 100% devoted for good of the workers of all races and fought for freedom from imperialist subjugation both in India and Kenya. He taught us to respect all mankind, race, color, creed, and religion. If as children we ever used any denigrating terminology while playing or talking to our friends, we were corrected immediately. He did not hesitate to correct any of the relatives or his friends either. In appearance, Papaji retained his Sikh attire, that is wearing a turban, but strongly believed in pristine communism. Not the communism of subversion and party line, but it was really practical socialism. When my mother asked him why he did not accompany her to the Gurdwara, that is the Sikh temple, and his reply was, he was already practicing Sikh philosophy. And what is the point of reciting the scriptures like a parrot? He followed a path of righteousness, as illustrated by an incident my mother often narrated. This is quite interesting. During a wedding ceremony, the bridegroom was usually expected to recite a naughty couplet to the young lady friends of the wife and sisters of the bride. Papaji, at his own wedding ceremony, in his usual serious tone, chose instead to recite a verse from the Guru Granth Sahib, which is our Sikh holy book. Sache marg chaldiyan ustat kare jahan. What it means is, those who lead the path of righteousness are the ones remembered in the world. That's at his marriage. When he was detained, I was still quite young and do not remember specific things, but all I know is that he never flouted rules and regulations laid upon him. For example, he would not put one step outside his limits of 2-mile radius of his residence and always tried to stay within the law. This is what baffled the colonial government at the time. They couldn't catch him on anything while he was there for 11 and a half years. His belief and his commitment to his ideology came before everything else, including his family. When my mother admonished him to give up his political and trade union activities and take care of his family, his curt reply was, Satwant, that's my mother, I'm sorry, but as far as I'm concerned, you can all perish in thin air, but I cannot give up my political activities in this country. Papaji was a totally unmaterialistic person, as Shiraz mentioned earlier on. I've yet to come across one like him. When my dear grandfather was ready to retire, he asked my father to take over the printing press business. And his reply was that he cannot become an owner of a business, but would be quite happy to work as an employee even for 100 shillings a month. He was highly principled to the point of deprivation and self-sacrifice. He wrote 2 books, as Shiraz has already shown you. The last page of his second book, the 1952-1956 Crucial Years of Kenya's Trade Unions, was on the typewriter when he died. This book was then edited by Professor Ogot and published posthumously. All the takings on these books were denoted by him and subsequently by the family to the Historical Association of Kenya and the Central Organization of Trade Union, which is called KOTU these days. He had many chances of becoming wealthy, both during his detention and after Kenya's independence, but he chose the path of simple, true to his beliefs, and a selfless life. During his lifetime, he owned no property or car, wore simple clothes, ate simple food, never touched alcohol, just lived a simple life. I think there was this glass of juice. Thanks very much. We have some loving and sad memories of him as well. Before his arrest, I remember how in the morning he used to pick me and my younger brother, Suraj Pal, on either side to give us a hug before he left home for his day's job. On Sundays, sometimes he'd take us to movies, but this, of course, didn't last very long. It was only a couple of years. Papaji was the most dear person for me, and I loved him greatly. The most hurtful feelings I still have, and when I remember them, they form a very dark, thick cloud over me. That is the morning when he was arrested. I can still picture him being taken away by 2 white policemen in a black car on the road just across where we lived. As a 5-year-old child, I could not understand what was going on, that my Papaji was being taken away from me. It was a very traumatic episode. I do not remember anything else afterwards other than my mother told me that for quite some time I became very quiet, withdrawn, and sickly looking. Papaji had great qualities. He was a very organized and methodical person, as Shiraz has already pointed out, how he wrote everything down. He would record everything longhand, and his writing was beautiful, clear, absolutely like it was printed, making cuttings from newspapers and magazines, and stored them chronologically. When we visited him during his detention in Lokitong, that's before Maralal, he was in Lokitong, which was about 600 miles in northern frontier of Kenya. He would structure the day for both me and my brother, Suraj Pal, my younger brother, so that we won't get bored. In those days, toys did not exist, and if they did, whatever existed, we couldn't afford them anyway. And Papaji used to improvise and make tiny cups and saucers and aeroplanes and spinning wheels and you name it, from bottle tops and twigs. During our daily evening walk, my brother and I used to collect them. And you probably know that such bottle tops these days are recycled to make functional objects by local people in Kenya these days. Whenever we became sick, he went back and forth to the doctors, getting medications, sitting up all night with us. I would say that he showed his caring and compassionism. I would say he was a caring and a compassionate father. Once we started school, as I mentioned earlier on, we used to visit him each school holiday. In trains, lorries, Land Rovers, the roads were pretty rough. And at times when the rains were heavy, we could not cross the flooded rivers until the waters went down, and that sometimes meant a night or 2 nights just sitting in those trucks and lorries until the water went down, and then we could move on. Bless my mother, who went through those tough times, and we were 2 young kids, fighting with each other and quarreling and doing all sorts of crazy things. On our arrival, Papaji would have hot water ready and a meal prepared for us, which along with his warmth made us forget our tortuous journey. The early part of my learning was all from my Papaji, as I did not start school until the 5th standard. He was a very good and a very, very patient teacher. He helped both me and my brother sort out our school problems. However, my brother Hindpal, that's my older brother, had no help from him in his schoolwork because he wasn't even allowed to visit him while he was there. And then he departed for India for his further studies. Possibly the aim of the authorities was to block direct communication between father and son and create an emotional frustration in them. He had a great interest in poetry, as Amarjit has already said, and you